this film and talking about the story and the challenges of searching for archives. I want to talk this evening about from the scientific point of view, academic point of view, what challenges we face in order to collect the Palestinian memory and to reconstruct the life of Palestine before the Nakba of 1948. Closer? Okay. Okay. Now much better. Okay, thank you. My research focuses actually on the challenges of getting and collecting the entire audiovisual heritage of Palestine. And I, just as you said, Nahed, we all face the same problem, that trying to recollect these collections. Just to let you know, in every modern country, you have, I'm sure you have it here, the Czech Republic, there is a central organization or institution which belongs to the state and which is in charge of preserving the memory of the entire people of the country. Like, I don't know, in Germany we have, because I live in Germany, we have the Bundesarchiv, we have, for example, in Britain we have the library, British Library, in America we have the Library of Congress, even in Israel there's the Israeli National Archive, but in Palestine there is nothing. So this entire heritage is really fragmented, scattered all over the world. And this is where I started my research, and in order to find this collective memory which belongs to me and to you, to the Palestinian people, because the Israeli side it has always been like this in history. When a country or colonizes the other, the first thing they do, they loot the culture of the colonialized people. This has been done since the Romans until today, and exactly this is what is Israel doing, and it is part of my work. I see it as part of a struggle, of a political struggle against the occupation and the colonization of Palestine. So let's start. I hope I will not take that much time. I'll try to make it a bit faster. So I have to start from the mid-19th century, how when, in the 19th century it was suddenly possible for people to travel all around the world, to come to Palestine, to the Holy Land, and many came from Europe. At the same time, the invention of photography started in the mid-1850s, 1830s actually. So the earliest pictures taken in Palestine date back to 1836-37. But the Europeans were the ones who took the pictures of Palestine. And how did they see Palestine? Palestine was the Holy Land, part of the Orient, and we came actually from the Romantic era in Europe. So that was the way the Europeans who took these pictures saw Palestine. I can recall. You can see here all these images which were taken around 1850 in Palestine. You can see very similar, these are paintings, this is a painting, these are photographies. So here you see the similarity of how photographers saw Palestine, and you hardly see any people. Okay, you always see the country, you don't see the people. This is very remarkable at that time, because it was Europe, or the Europeans wanted to see only the country. They wanted to live this romantic life, the romantic image of the Orient, not only Palestine, but also in Egypt, in Syria, and Lebanon, and elsewhere. So And then I was really disturbed when I saw in a major part of the literature we search, you have always these narratives or this those who took these pictures and who worked on these pictures and worked on these archives always try to keep to show Palestine and the rest of the Middle East as very, very undeveloped, very I don't know how to say it in English.
Savage.
Yes, exactly.
Barbaric.
Yeah, exactly. So this is, for example, one of the German books I found for those who read German. It says, well, 1,900 years nothing happened in Palestine. So really very, very...
Can I just translate it?
Yes.
I speak German. Can you
Okay.
1900 let se nic... 1900 nebo 1900 let se v zemi Bible nic nestalo. Teprve 20. století přineslo auta, letadla, telekomunikaci, asfaltované silnice a přinesla modernitu. Ta modernita, která změnila tvář svaté země zásadně. Das Land der Bibel mit einem Schlag aus dem Schlaf der Geschichte in die Gegenwart versetzte. A tu zemi, nebo biblickou zemi, jedním rázem probrala ze spánku, že tam není hlubokého, je opravdu to chybí, ze spánku historie a přivedla ji do současnosti.
Thank you very much. Yes, and this goes on and on. I mean, they say 1,900 years, nothing happened. Jerusalem was, when the Islam came to Jerusalem in the 6th century, when the Crusaders came to Palestine and created all these things, and the Ottomans and all these things, nothing happened. Just trying to give the impression that nothing happened in this country, and we come now and we want to rebuild this country. Again, also in another archival document, a pilgrim through Palestine. This is a video actually taken by the British, by the BBC in around 1940. I don't know if we can hear the sound. Okay, never mind. Never mind. It's okay. It just it's a short film that shows a scene in Nazareth and the port of Haifa, and it just says, well, we are here. We're the British here, and we're the soldiers here, and nothing or little has changed since 2,000 years. The same, the same narrative. I just wanted to say this again, just to prove or to underline what. It's only 1 minute.
Our pilgrimage from the Holy Land begins at Haifa, a picturesque port on the Mediterranean. Here we land. Journey forth to holy places, whose names are revered throughout the world. We gaze down at Haifa from Mount Carmel, the traditional site of Elijah's sacrifice. Off the beaten road of travel, the ancient town of Nazareth lies secluded on the slopes of Galilee. It has changed but little since he who is called the Nazarene dwelt here in his childhood.
So it goes on like this, always giving the impression that we, the British who came to Palestine, we're now here to change the world in Palestine from very much undeveloped to a new modern society. But it is different when, because there were also Europeans who came and lived in Palestine. One of the very remarkable personalities who lived in Palestine was Gustav Dahlmann. I don't know if you know that name. Gustav Dahlmann was actually a priest who came from Germany, and he lived in Beit Jala, very close to Beit Lahem and Beit Zahur. And he stayed there for, I think, around 15 years. So, and he had a hobby, and that was our luck, that he had a hobby of doing photography. He lived there in Palestine around the turn of the century, late 19th and early 20th century. And he had the passion for photography, and he, it was very complicated to take photography, these big machines, bulky machines, and so on, and developing also the chemicals and so on was very complicated. Anyway, so the most important thing is that he focused on the people and not on the country, not on the landscapes, on this romantic image of Palestine, but he documented the country, also graveyards, and he took a big collection of the plants, of the vegetation in Palestine, and so it is a very important treasure which is now in Germany, in Greifswald at the university, and we talk about 20,000 pictures of that time. So it's a huge, really huge treasure which gives us the possibility to rebuild, to reconstruct the life of Palestine at that time. Okay, and so this is one of the examples. What I wanted to say that when Europeans came and lived with the people, they had suddenly a different perspective to the life and to Palestine as a country. Now, the misuse of these archival documents and archives by the Zionist movement in the late 19th and early 20th century. So when you go through the pictures, you don't see any Palestinian. And so all these documents, pictures, and posters from that time back to Jerusalem, you see the landscape, the map of Palestine showing only Jerusalem, and the rest of the country is empty. So, exactly, because they wanted to convince the Jews abroad that this country is an empty country, a country without people for people without country. And, without land, exactly. And we are the ones here to rebuild Palestine. We want to make it das neue Palästina in film, the new Palestine in a film, and always showing their perspective and deleting the Palestinian existence. And this goes on until today. This was one of the very recent, 2017. There was a lecture that was given by the German-Israeli Society in Bremen, in a city in Germany. And the one who made this lecture, he used archival photographic materials, and he was literally saying that here you see the Europeans, the Jews, the newcomers came here to Palestine. They want to build a new modern society, but the old Palestinians remain on traditional. They insist on remaining, underdeveloped, and this is so ridiculous. While when you go back to that time and you see what cultural life Palestinians had already long before the Nakba of 1948, it is really amazing. And all these archival documents are lost somewhere. So we had the first cinema houses in the region. We had music industry going on. We had newspapers, film making in Palestine. We had concerts, classical concerts. We had the first 2 radio stations in the region speaking Arabic, and covering the entire Middle Eastern area. So it was really remarkable, and you could only do this if you had a cultural life, a healthy, functioning society. Just to give you an example, this is a recording, 100-year-old recording made in Palestine, Jaffa, Qasida. Okay, so this I wanted to show you that what high cultural life the Palestinians had at that time. You have to keep in mind doing such a recording and doing radio stations at that time wasn't. It was really a very difficult, technically difficult thing, because you didn't have the technology to edit, to cut. You know, so you had to have the best musicians who can play live, perform live on radio, because if they do any mistakes, then it goes on air, you know. So that's why it was really very, very important that only the best musicians and best radio speakers and those people had the chance, and those were existing in Palestine. Also, recording music at that time, it is a one-take thing. You have the orchestra, and if you do any error, then you lose the entire recording, so you cannot repair it. So so that's why it was very important. What I wanted to say here is that in Palestine we had these highly qualified musicians, radio speakers, and so on. But what happened in the Nakba of 1948? After the Nakba, all this vivid cultural, multicultural life was stopped at once, and many people had to flee to leave their homes. They were forced, as you said, and around half of the Palestinian, more than half of the Palestinian people, who were forced to leave home and seek refuge somewhere else in the neighboring countries. And since then, since 1948, the Israelis, as Israeli authority, mainly the Israeli army, has been looting all archival materials made by Palestinians in order to delete or to cancel their cultural existence. And it began with the books, as you said, Nahi, robbing the libraries from the Palestinian houses and putting some of them under closure. AP stands for abandoned property. So this is the code which was given to all the books which were stolen. And it has been an ongoing process, a systematic looting of the Palestinian cultural goods until today. Now, these pictures were taken in 1982 during the Lebanon invasion, and these documents show that there's a large collection of photos that were used. This is a different document that is personally very important for me, because this is a film made by my father, and this is one of his paintings. And my father was a painter, but he was also a filmmaker. He did only 3 or 4 films. One of them was this one, which has been also looted, stolen from Beirut in 1982, and now stored in the Israeli army. As you see, IDF, Israeli Defense Forces, and Defense Establishment Archive. Memories of Growth, this is the title of the film. And it declares the film as if this is their own property, while it is stolen. This is the proof that this film has been stolen from Lebanon. And the problem is that we don't have any access. The Israeli authorities deny access to these documents. And this goes on until today. You can see the BBC Palestine Broadcasting Corporation, which is the Palestinian radio, which was, I was witnessing the establishment of this. This is me, by the way. And this is Shireen Abu Aql, if you know the.
Wow.
So she was my friend. Anyways, so that was 1949 when the building was established, and this is 2014 when the building was hit, the same building. So this has been always an ongoing process, trying to silence the Palestinian narrative and deleting the cultural life and memory of the Palestinians.
So can I just ask you if that building is in Jerusalem or in Ramallah?
In Ramallah, yes, in Ramallah, yeah. So since now I'll switch back to the cultural life of the Palestinians. After 1948, after the Nakba, it was very, art, as I always say, art is the mother of those people who write history. I mean, you have here Wojak, you have here Smetana, you have here Kafka, and all the people or generations of the future, they remember these figures. They don't remember who was the ruler at that time. So what I wanted to say is that culture always remains for generations, for the future, not like politicians. So what happened to Palestine? That there were those people who were creating culture and art before the Nakba. Those people after the Nakba, they continued doing art. However, there were two different developments of art. One which was inside of Israel and under occupied territory. So the Palestinian culture makers, they were forced to, they were not allowed, for example, to draw or paint the Palestinian flag, Palestinian colors, already since that time. They were not allowed to draw or to paint any weapons in their paintings. And Mahmoud Darwish, this famous Palestinian poet that he has his works from that time. Very clearly, he tries very much to hide or to use embedded or hidden messages in his lyrics in order not to get in confrontation with the Israeli authorities, because he was living in Israel at that time. And then late 1960s, he left. On the other hand, the Palestinian artists outside of Palestine, of occupied Palestine, they used clear messages in their arts. I will show you now a couple of paintings that were made by my father shortly after in the 1950s. I can just underline what I'm telling you. So these are the paintings that my father did from somewhere between 1948 and 65. You see that he was trying, because he himself experienced the Nakba. He was forced to leave his house with his family at the age of 18, and this is one of his very famous paintings, Word 2. The title of the painting is Word 2. So all this. That was the case with all Palestinian artists immediately after the Nakba. They were trying to understand what happened to them, this shock of being expelled from home without doing anything. trying to find a new house. Things changed in the mid-1960s with the creation of the PLO, of the Palestinian Liberation Organization. Suddenly, the Palestinian culture makers and artists realized, okay, now we have the chance, we have now a roadmap which should lead us back to our homeland, to Palestine, and we are now allowed to use weapons. So you suddenly see armies and you see weapons. Also, you know, even in dance and theater, very remarkable was the military dress in green. Okay. Also, the logo of the filmmaking institution, the camera as a weapon. So all these were very, very remarkable, very clear in the arts and the art scenery after 1965. But only outside of Palestine and not inside of Palestine. So where we stand today in arts, we have, after the Oslo Agreement or after the mid-90s, we have now two clear developments. Despite the wall and all this, what the Oslo has brought to us, but we have two different streams in art making. One says you cannot do art and culture and pretend as everything is normal under unnormal situation, because occupation is a highly unnormal situation, so you cannot make a normal cultural life. And there are other artists who say, no, it's now I finally have the chance to make art for the sake of art, so I will do art for the sake of art. You know Banksy, and you know the wall, the separation wall in Palestine, and this is maybe one of the biggest public exhibition in the world meanwhile, graffiti exhibition. And Banksy has so many works on this wall. This is one of his famous works nearby Ramallah, I think. And this shows exactly what I'm saying. So you cannot deal with this wall as if it is a normal, you cannot make normal cultural life under unnormal situation. And there are others like Mona Hatoum, for example, also very well-known Palestinian artist, who focuses on modern artists and modernity and global art. This is her attitude, but it's okay. So we have now these two different attitudes in art making, but in the last years, I think this group has grown much more faster than this group, because especially in critical moments like the war in Gaza and so on, you cannot do normal art without dealing with the very, very harsh war on reality and war on Gaza. This is the painting you see here, and I just wanted to put this here. I don't know that Yana, you will print it here, but this is one of the remarkable paintings by my late father, and it has the title "A Salute to the Martyrs," and here you can see all names of martyrs, of massacres, of villages which have been demolished by the Israeli regime of the creation of the state of Israel. And to honor all these people and all these, so he did this painting. This is a really huge and very impressive painting. And shortly after he did this painting, he passed away in 2006. So, where we stand today, many collections are stored in Europe and in the US. Not easily reachable, because if you go to the archives, to the libraries, and try to dig and look for archival material, you have to know how to look for these materials, because all these catalogued materials and artifacts and collections are stored in Latin letters. So you have to know the Arabic names for I don't know, whatever. So this is one of the technical problems we have. Another technical problem we face is the copyright. You cannot deal with archives without clearing copyright. But this remains always a very big challenge, because I don't know when you did your film, what copyright regulations did you depend on? But whatever. Yeah. Exactly. My attitude, I say that all these collections which are stored in Europe and in the US are actually our heritage, so they should be accessible. And then we have a huge part in the Israeli archives, as I showed you, the military archives, especially the military archives. So these make, in my opinion, around 80% of the collections, audiovisual and cultural collections we have. But the big difference between this and this is that this is under closure. You have no access. We have no access. Only a very limited access when an Israeli scholar or scientist or whatever academic, like for example, we heard at the beginning, Ilan Pater, he was able to access these archives and do his research based on this access to the archives, and then he has been, you know the story of Ilan Pater. He had to leave the country, and he's now living in London teaching. So, so for me as a Palestinian, it's almost impossible to get access to these archives, to get back my own property. As you have seen the film of my father, the collections my father did are all there. We know, and I have evidence, but there's no way to get them back. And there is a big, numerous artifacts, numbers of a huge number of collections, like the ones you used with Jamil. What's his name? Yeah. If we didn't have these people, I'm sure in Palestine and elsewhere there are lots of, maybe thousands or I don't know, maybe hundreds of thousands of pictures that you can use to rebuild the life in Palestine before that time. But they are undiscovered because we don't know. I don't know who has what kind of collection, but I'm sure there are people who have collections, and not only collections. For example, I showed you those shellac records, those gramophone records which I played. I know I have lists of at least 100 records which were made in the 1920s in Palestine, but physically I was only able to find 3. The rest was somewhere. So these are the challenges we have, and I'm sorry I took too much time, but I'm really open and happy to have your questions and to open a discussion now. Thank you very much.